Welcome back to Second Breakfast and our ongoing gaming discussions, bringing you the best thoughts, theories, and literary analysis this side of Lightfall, which was the last expansion and sort of the last time I played Destiny.
I was going to say, did we talk about that one? Have we done a Destiny episode before?
We did one about the content vault. And about those earlier campaigns that were just deleted from the game.
That's right.
It was sort of a eulogy. Go check out that episode. It was fun and sad.
I remember this now,
Because I loved those earlier campaigns like I loved the original Halo campaigns, and I'm sad that most of them aren't there anymore.
So weird.
And eventually that and a bunch of other decisions and drama behind the scenes with Bungie in the game, I just sort of fell off of it. I didn't feel good buying it. I didn't feel good playing it or supporting it for a while.
I was so sad for you. It sucked so bad because I knew how important this game was to you.
If you rack up all the hours, which I will not do in a public setting, but it's way more than you think, I have played this game more than any other.
Wow.
And I love it. I love it so much, and my life is better when I'm enjoying Destiny. But I felt bad about it, and I didn't want to be a part of it. And I didn't even get Final Shape when it came out, despite it being advertised as the big, explosive, final, massive campaign they're going to make in the end of this big saga. I've now waited multiple years since that came out, but hey, I'm back in. And I got it on sale, which is great.
Finally did it.
So yeah, I want to talk about Destiny 2, The Final Shape, and I'm happy to report that not only is it a great expansion, it is a great ending to the 10-year journey I've been on with Destiny 2.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear.
It is arguably as good as the best expansions we've had. Whether it's The Witch Queen, Forsaken, Beyond Light, I loved all three of those.
Wow.
I loved the other ones too, but those were the better ones. And I think this one's up there. And the big reason why is because it gave me the type of content I want. I've talked about this a lot. We do a lot of Diablo 2 coverage. We did act by act through the...
Diablo 4.
Damn it.
What if we did...
They all start with D.
I know, these stupid dumb
Thank
games.
you for catching that, though. We've done a lot of Diablo 4 coverage, which is a similar live game that's all about looting. One's a first-person shooter, the other one's an isometric role-playing.
And I feel like they both have their challenges and things that are in quirks that we hate but still keep playing. I don't know. I feel like there's some crossover there.
Yes, similar bones. The appeal, I think the fact that they both appeal to me is not surprising.
I guess the only difference is that I haven't played Destiny, but that's fine.
But the reason I love Destiny so much and have played so much of it is because of those campaigns. But the reason I dropped it and have moved much more into Diablo 4 and Path of Exile and all these other things is because there is a constant, almost boundless supply of PvE content. So that's not fighting against other people online. That is missions and quests and story-related stuff. Even if it's repeatable activities, it's PvE content. That is what I love.
Yes.
Diablo 4. I'm catching myself every time now. Diablo 4 has given me that in spades.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It has given me more campaigns. It's given me seasonal campaigns for free, and Destiny doesn't do much of that.
Yeah, because you're not a PvP kind of guy.
I am in Destiny.
Oh, okay.
That's because I'm good at it. But that's also, again, the time commitment. So, yeah, I'm not that hard to please if you just do the kind of stuff that I hear everyone talk about liking in Destiny that they don't develop as much for.
I see, okay.
Most people I know and talk to this game about and hear about online play it solo and like the story content, like the missions and the quests. And with this expansion, at least... they're doing a lot of that. Not just giving you a campaign with some big missions, but giving you a lot of other stuff. A lot of side quests and side content in this new location of the Heart of the Traveler, the Pale Heart, which is what the big location is called. And I think that's where I want to start because it's simple. If you give me a lot of PvE stuff, I will be your most loyal soldier. And I'm happy to be that now, again, because the gameplay in Destiny hits like nothing else. The mechanics of this as a first-person shooter, they're better, they're tighter, they're stronger, they're more engrossing than any other shooter. I'm talking original Halo, the newer Doom games, nothing from me. Nothing comes close to how Destiny feels. Every truly white-knuckle experience I've had playing a game, besides maybe a couple boss fights in Elden Ring or something, all of those most white-knuckle intense moments are Destiny. The moments where my hands hurt because I'm gripping the controller. It's all Destiny. It's unparalleled for me. When it's at its best, it is the best.
And so was that what it was like here?
Yes.
Awesome.
I had plenty of those moments. Topped with, I think this might have the best art direction the franchise has ever seen.
I mean, every time I looked over while you were playing, I was like, that's a gorgeous game. I mean, Destiny's always looked good. I've always been impressed with its art, with its design and everything. But like, I don't know, looking over when you were playing this expansion, I was like, wow, that's a gorgeous environment that you're in right now.
It feels so liberated because the Pale Heart is this sort of surreal destination that's cobbling together these different locations within it from your memories and your fears. It wasn't just the usual level of beauty and drama. It was more color than you could ever get in a natural landscape. It was more imagination. It was more false in a beautiful, creative way than you could ever get in, oh, this is an ice planet. It has to look like an ice planet.
I see, yeah.
This was more beautiful and exciting than any of those locations. And I've always loved the big missions that you jump into and you know, okay, it's going to be 45 minutes of me running through this curated, beautiful set of encounters and mechanics and levels. It wasn't just that we got that here. It was these multi-step sort of quests. In addition to Halo-style missions and these big boss fights, you had these land battles. You had these activities that roped in other people. So you're still playing alone functionally, but it matchmakes you with a couple other people. So you're going through this story-focused mission with a fire team of 3 people.
Okay, so you're not against each other. You're all working together.
You're working together. And I love that level of seamless cooperation.
That's fun.
The new weapons in this expansion were fantastic. I had so much fun. I finally broke free of the weapons I've been using since 2016.
I remember we had a whole conversation about it. You're like, what should I do? And the same about your characters too, right? Weren't you trying to decide if you were maybe you're gonna get into
I might do that in the future.
Okay.
I might just delete one of my characters and start from scratch and see how that feels.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made a conscious effort to move past the weapons I've been using for years. And that was liberating. And I was much stronger.
Wow, amazing.
Once I moved past the sentimentality, I was much more effective.
You want to know? Okay, so I've sidetrack. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla for like a couple of years now. Still haven't finished it because that game is ginormous. I did the same thing you're doing, and I haven't let my father's axe go. It's the only weapon I've used. But I feel like
I used it the entire game.
I feel like there are better weapons I could be using.
Doesn't matter.
But it's your fault, and now I'm stuck with it. And I
do you
feel
love
like
your father? Do you want to honor his
and
memory?
I'm like, I don't know. I'm probably 45 hours in, and I can't let it go now. So what am I going to do?
What would your father's ghost think? When you get to Valhalla, what's he going to say?
I guess he would probably be very upset with me. So anyway, that's it. The sentimentality with video game objects is your fault.
But
so
it's not just objects. It is with characters.
Yeah.
And this is one of my greatest compliments to the Final Shape is that I think it finally fulfills the early promise of Destiny 2. I remember launch day. I remember that, what is called now, like the vanilla Destiny 2 campaign, which you can't play anymore.
When was that?
2016.
Okay.
It was called The Red War. And I loved that campaign because there were these moments that felt like wish fulfillment. Because in Halo, I only played Destiny because I loved Halo. I just followed the developer over.
Yeah, it seems like a natural successor.
Yeah. I do that with comics too. I follow the creators, not the characters. You know, it's a similar
thing. You do it with movies, the same thing. Yeah.
I thought you said boobies there.
No, you don't do it with that.
It's very funny. It's brand loyalty. But there were these great...
Sorry, if I just like casually said the word booby in life, like who does that?
Well, that's why it threw me off. But there were these great central characters in Destiny 2 in that first campaign. They're called the Vanguard.
Yeah.
So it's you as the Guardian, and then these 3 kind of heads of these different factions, the Warlocks, the Titans, and the Hunters. There's Zavala, who is voiced by Lance Reddick. There is Cade Six, who is my favorite, voiced by Nathan Fillion. And Ikora, who is the Warlock. And I play as the Warlock, so she was kind of my favorite in a different way.
Sure.
And there were these moments in that campaign where it would be like a siege or a surprise attack with all these people bombarding this central hub. And one of those main characters, who's not present in most of the combat missions, would run alongside you and drop this huge bubble shield and protect you and all these people from this cascade of enemy fire. And it would feel like I'm fighting alongside the characters I'm told to invest in, that I see in these cutscenes.
Like you're actually part of it.
You're fighting with them.
Yeah.
And Halo, coming from that Bungie DNA, was so much a solo experience.
I see.
But there was a supporting cast, but not in that way, in that combat sort of way. it never felt like that. And that to me, that was the promise of Destiny, is that I would fight with the Vanguard and go on these adventures with them.
That's great. Yeah. Because so many games like will have like, side characters that you're supposed to be working with, but you're right, it does still feel so solo. Like, I mean, if you think about Diablo 4, every now and then you're paired up with somebody who comes with you, but like you don't really notice or recognize their presence or assistance. And even though I guess there is dialogue happening during the fight, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I don't feel like I am part of the story with them. I still feel like I'm on my own solo journey, and they're just kind of there, like in the background,
And so much of the story is about the fire team. It's about the Vanguard. That I've always wanted more of a sense of teamwork and camaraderie in the moment, in the mission, than I've ever really gotten. Because subsequent expansions had less and less of that, to the point that I felt like we were getting whole seasons, because I played plenty of the seasons. We're getting whole seasons of just the player character alone, trudging through different missions and repeated activities, listening to audio logs, or getting like phone calls from the other characters. But
lame.
They weren't there fighting with me. And my favorite part, I think, of the final shape is that it felt like it was almost every step of it was about character and serving, paying off this long-standing story.
That's
it was
great.
like once you presented the big bad of this final chapter in this saga, the early missions of this campaign were about getting the band back together. So it was about recruiting and exploring. So you go to get Zavala, who's the Titan, that was the Lance Reddick's character, and you go visit this farm where his family was killed by one of the alien races in the world.
Had you been there before, to anywhere like that before?
We've explored his grief before, but actually being near the house and having this onslaught around you, because the Pale Heart is built out of these memories, we kind of got to relive that trauma with him and fight through it.
That's crazy.
And that meant more because it was embedded in character, but also because he was physically there.
Yeah, wow.
And when I went to go recruit Ikora, I was running around this location and I saw her. So then she was there. And of course, Cade Six, who's my favorite character, the robot-looking guy with the blue eyes, they killed him off in Forsaken, which was a fantastic campaign, but kind of a bummer that they got rid of my favorite character.
Yeah.
And they brought him back because we're in this place built of imagination.
One
of the characters wishes, basically, the guy who killed him, wishes that he hadn't and that he was back. So he's kind of brought back from the afterlife temporarily within this campaign.
Yes, I remember seeing you playing that part and you were explaining that to me, and I thought that was so cool, and it looked like it was doing it all really like beautifully and wonderfully. That's great.
Was, and it was emotional. And there was this quest later. It was this multi-step quest. It wasn't just like one standalone mission. It was all of these interesting tasks on this new location. It was basically a stakeout with me, the Guardian, with Cade and Crow. Crow is sort of the evolved identity of the guy who killed him.
Oh, okay, got it.
So there's if Cade was the previous Hunter Vanguard, Crow is the new Hunter Vanguard. So there's kind of this passing of the torch. There's a guilt. There are all these things for them to dig through.
Wow.
So you're doing that during this stakeout that is also furthering the main rivalry with this big bad called the Witness.
Nice.
So it was not just efficient storytelling. It was active character combat synthesis in the way that I've been hoping for since 2016.
Wow.
And there was even a moment, because the Witness is built up as this big bad who's trying to control the universe and kind of end the freedom of the universe outside of his control. So the final shape would be how he arranges it. It reminded me of God Emperor of Dune.
Oh.
We've been talking about the Dune books for the last year or so. I've done kind of these, like we're doing right now, kind of a solo episode, but with Maggie in the sidecar.
Yeah, right.
I did those for all the Dune books, and I was really moved and affected by God Emperor of Dune. And I feel like the Witness functions like the God Emperor does, to the point that parts of this campaign felt like I was playing a game adaptation of God Emperor of Dune.
Fascinating.
And I was using this weapon called a trace rifle. That's like the classification of weapon.
Okay.
And it fires this beam of energy. And if you aim down sights, it fires these kind of blasts of energy.
Okay.
But it feels even more sci-fi. When you're just using... I like all the machine guns and stuff.
Yeah.
And at some point, that feels more realistic than it does sci-fi. But using this cool laser gun, it felt like the las guns in Dune.
Oh, interesting.
So there were moments where I
fun.
felt like I was kind of cosplaying God Emperor of Dune, which made this even cooler
I was
for
gonna say, that's
me.
great for you. I wonder if there was maybe not intentional,
Definitely.
but like
Yes.
a subconscious influence
Yes,
there.
because the final shape being this kind of North Star guiding principle of the Witness's master plan is much like the way the God Emperor talks about the Golden Path. Very, very similar.
Okay, nice.
I would bet a couple bucks.
I wonder if like a creator on this team like saw the Dune movies and was excited and read all the books and was like, hey, hold on, what if?
But it works as a big bad, and it does unite this kind of universal threat. So it wasn't just that I was getting what I finally wanted from a Destiny expansion. I was also getting this kind of backdoor adaptation of one of my favorite books.
Right, just like a great sci-fi experience that's like made for you.
And I want to talk about the ending because I was having all these positive experiences, but it wasn't really enough to the point that I wanted to do an episode and discuss the expansion. And then I got to the ending and I knew I had to talk about this the reason we do this is to put good energy out into the universe. It's to talk about art we love. And the ending is what turned this expansion from a game I enjoyed playing to something I loved that I wanted to share and talk about.
I was going to say, let me set the scene for y'all, because Cam finished this expansion around, like, he finished it, like, right before I had finished making dinner. And so, I came in and like, okay, like, it's time to eat. And I could tell you were finishing up. And Cam talks. Cam's a big talker. He always has something to say and is, interested in things and shares fun facts he's learned today and likes to talk to me. When Cam's not talking, it means like he's being really quiet. It means something's wrong, or it means he's feeling something really intensely. And that's what was happening here. And it was also like added layer of you didn't want to talk about it because you were saving it for this, but I could tell that the ending had really hit you and that you were feeling a lot. But I said, like, is this good? And you said, yes, absolutely. And so I'm really excited to hear about this.
This franchise means a lot to me. When they killed off Cade, that I had a little, like, I guess Funko Pop style, like, action figure. I don't know what you call them.
Okay.
I had a little Cade on my desk, and that became this, like, memorial, which was sort of upsetting. But he had this signature gun, this hand cannon called the Ace of Spades.
Nice.
And the things I put myself through to get that gun in the game, to honor him.
I remember this. Yeah.
So yes,
I didn't know why you wanted this gun. Now I understand. Okay.
I'm incredibly invested in this game and this story. When it gives me story, because plenty of expansions have had almost none to speak of, and it's just art direction and repeat these activities.
Yeah, sure.
When it serves me the story, nothing hits harder for me. So I was gearing up for the ending. I could see you see these kind of mission steps. You're on step 31 of 37. When you're getting towards the end of the campaign. So I was gearing up. I was grinding. I was getting ready for the big bad, the big fight with the witness, and I was starting to get nervous because in the past, there's always a big bad for every expansion. But sometimes the big fight where you finally confront and always kill and succeed, you always kill the boss and win at the end.
Sure.
But sometimes they put that final battle in the raid. So you'll have a full campaign, and then you'll have what's called a raid. Diablo's starting to have these too.
Okay.
Live games have always had these. It's basically big, long activities. Sometimes they take hours to complete, and it's 6 or it's 12 people who all gather together, and it's this long, winding series of puzzles and really challenging combat encounters, culminating in a massive, tough, scary boss fight.
Okay.
I've watched a lot of raid content, but I just haven't played any of them. I think I accidentally played one of them, but it was many years ago. But I was worried that this final battle with the final boss of this 10-year journey would be in a raid and something I wouldn't end up playing.
I see. Okay.
And that would frustrate me from a narrative angle because I wouldn't really get to experience the end of the story, and it would just end on this like drink more Ovaltine dissatisfaction.
Yeah. I get why games do that because they want you to keep playing even after the story ends, but it also feels like, come on. And I'll decide if I'm going to play or not. Don't make me do it to finish the story.
Exactly. And I was playing this final mission that I thought was going to end up in this final boss battle, and then it ended before I had killed the witness. And then that's where I was worried about this bait and switch. So I go to my next quest step, I go in my little log, my quest log, and I queue in for the next mission, which I think, okay, this is the final one.
Sure.
And it's called Excision. So I click on it. I'm doing screen capture recording because I like to run the gameplay in the back of these episodes.
Yes.
So if you're watching on YouTube versus listening on a podcast, you'll have my gameplay running in the background. So I queue up for this mission called Excision. And I'm waiting in the lobby, which is weird because usually if it's matchmaking, it's like 3 people for a fire team.
Sure.
And then it throws you right in and you're having a good time. This was a 12-player match-made activity.
Whoa, okay.
So that was already weird. And it took like 20 minutes
for
it to fill. It took I've never waited this long.
Weird. Were you playing it like a weird time of day? Like
maybe, but also it's been out for a long time.
That's
so
true.
I didn't know what I was in for, and it was weird because I've literally never waited this long for it to fill a Destiny activity.
That's a long time.
And I was mounting all of these concerns
like,
in
what's
my
going
head.
on? Yeah, what is this thing?
Is this big final moment? Is it going to be great? And it loads into this activity. And it is, I know you haven't seen Avengers Endgame, but when I say that this was the grand finale, this was an Avengers-style roll call.
Okay.
Where everyone was there, not just with the Vanguard and the NPCs and the characters that I know and love, but with these 11 other Guardians around you, making this cooperative final push against the Witness. It was a mission like I have never experienced in any game. And maybe this is what raids are like, to their credit. But for me, as a PvE player, I don't know. So it was this blowout finale. It was a multi-stage boss fight through all of these arenas with constant messes of enemies. And you couldn't even see who was an enemy, who was a Guardian. It was delirious. There was so much happening. And I was still aware enough to be an effective team member.
I was going to say, was it like super, super hard, or was it like
it was hard, but you also had 11 talented people with you.
Okay, neat.
And the co-op mechanics were interesting, the twists, the tension. And during this mission is when, I'm glad you did that kind of sidebar about the emotion, because I was feeling overwhelmed during this mission. I felt the hundreds of hours I've spent in this world. I felt all of the stuff around the game that shapes how you feel about a franchise. I mean, this happens with Star Wars and Harry Potter and all these, it all rolls into one in your head. You know, the file of that franchise, it includes stuff beyond the canon.
I see, yeah.
So I didn't just feel the loss of Cade 6 in the Forsaken expansion. I really felt the loss of Lance Reddick, who wasn't just a major part of this game, but a major advocate for this franchise. He played the game a lot. And sometimes you could end up in matches with him, or he would talk about it and he would be part of the community.
That's cute.
And when he died, I felt like part of my love of this franchise kind of went with him, because it happened to dovetail with a lot of these other sort of disasters in the community.
That's right, I remember that.
So I felt the ups and downs of this fandom, and all of those fantastic, unbeatable shooter mechanics were hitting. It was everything was working at the perfect moment, and I think no game hits harder for me when it is at its peak, and this was at its peak. So as the fight ended, and of course we were victorious, and we took out this final stage of the boss battle, I felt this surge of emotion. And I have cleaned up some of the side activities and sort of filled out what's left in the expansion since then. And I know the game will continue. They've said that, even though they're now kind of owned by Sony and all sorts of behind the scenes stuff.
Okay.
And I've been playing Destiny so much since I finished this expansion. They're doing acts now, or episodes, or I don't know. They're like big seasons, but they're also kind of little expansions. They're trying to like meet in the middle.
Okay.
I've been playing a lot more, and there is a lot more to play.
Oh, great.
And I've been having a great time through Heresy, I think is what this like act is called.
Okay.
And I've been loving that. But my memories now of Final Shape are up there with anything I can point to from the Red War, from Forsaken or Witch Queen or Beyond Light or any of these other expansions. And I feel like in this final mission of Excision, it didn't just feel like the finale of 10 years of this experience, but it really felt like a resolution to this operatic, huge, intergalactic story they've been telling that they're calling the Light and Darkness saga. And I can't believe they actually nailed it. Because my first thought when I finished that mission was that, man, this is the kind of high I used to feel from a great Halo finale. I feel the Bungie DNA here. But I think I was wrong there, because it didn't really feel like Halo. With 12 people, with all of these characters you care about, with these weird multi-stage boss fights, with this extravagance of build variety and these superpowers and throwing ice magic and all this other. It's bolder than Halo. It's messier than Halo. And I think for me, more than any other moment in this franchise, that final mission of the Final Shape embodied what Destiny could be and kind of always was to me.
That's amazing. I'm so glad you had that experience. Did it make you, I mean, I'm sure part of what you were feeling was sadness, not only that the game was ending, but was there also a sadness of like, why couldn't it have been this way the whole time? Did you experience that at all?
Yeah, I mean, I know enough about the sort of tumult and turmoil at the studio to know why it hasn't been like this.
Yeah.
I think I was just happy that they got there.
I know. I'm so happy. I mean, it seems like they were really, like, finally doing what fans really want and, like, honoring the diehards, right? And, like, really, like, respecting the origins of where the game started and what people love about it so much.
There's this scout rifle, which is kind of like a longer distance weapon that fires, like, one at a time, so you can be kind of sneaky. I love, like, in Fallout 3, the hunting rifle, one of my favorite guns in a game ever.
Sure.
And it was called Dead Man's Tail, this scout rifle, and I really wanted it. And it was at the end of this exotic quest. And most people, I think you could play it cooperatively, but it wasn't match made. So you would have to, like, have friends that you log into it together with. And I didn't have that at the time. So it was just me. And the most agonizing white knuckle experience I've ever had in a game of just staying awake till like 3 a.m, telling yourself, like, staring at the mirror, like, you can do this.
Yeah.
One more try and you'll get there.
Right.
Was me burning through this mission, this freaky, tense, claustrophobic, bosses everywhere and things exploding, running through that mission to get this scout rifle, Dead Man's Tail. Those kind of stories, those memories that I have with this franchise, I still think about and I still tell people about as kind of the mountaintop for what gaming can make you feel and why this artistic medium is so special and so engaging and so lasting.
Yeah, I mean, because I think about, like, other types of art and entertainment, and one of the reasons, I mean, gaming is different for so many reasons, but one of which I think we're diving into here is that you're with them for so long. You don't watch a movie for 60 hours, for hundreds of hours. You watch a movie for 2, maybe you rewatch it a few times for a total of 10 hours. You read a book, and it depends on how long the book is, but you don't spend hundreds of hours with a book, like, unless you've reread it over and over and over and over and over again. But, like, so you spend so much time and energy with this thing in a way that you don't with other methods of storytelling.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that makes it so special.
And if you were to itemize it, I have bad experiences with this game. There are plenty of downturn, miserable moments of being part of this fandom and this franchise.
And I've watched you be miserable so often with this game.
But I don't remember that when I'm playing it.
Right.
I remember
you always want it to be the good parts that you remember.
But the laundry list of amazing times and experiences and levels and just, again, experiences I've had in Destiny 2 is longer than almost any other list.
That's amazing. I have a question. So in that final mission, when you're with those 11 other players, can you all communicate with each other at all? Can you talk?
I didn't have voice chat on.
Okay.
But it was simple. I mean, the puzzles weren't that hard. It wasn't like we really had to coordinate.
I just wonder, like, normally I wouldn't, I mean, that kind of idea alone gives me so much social anxiety. I could never. But I wonder what it would have been like in this instance, because it is this final emotional thing. Like, I wonder how everybody else was feeling too. And
I mean,
what
some
that
of those
was
people
like.
were definitely replaying the mission, so I don't know if they were all on this emotional roller coaster.
That's true.
Was seeing it for the first time.
That's a good point. Yeah.
If you played it launch weekend, I'm sure it felt like that.
Yeah.
But it was more about the momentum you get of playing with all these other people. There was this thing where you had to run around and get these kind of motes, these like balls of light, and run back and deposit them in this thing to charge it up to weaken the ball. It doesn't matter. You get the mechanic.
Sure.
But it was basically, everything is stylish in Destiny. So you're carrying this ball of light and you run over, and to deposit it, you basically dunk it like a basketball.
Nice.
So it was 12 people all trying to collect these things because we had to get a certain number of them that none of us could get on our own. So it was seeing this flurry of people running back and dunking these things. It was that level of cooperation and excitement and mounting energy.
Cool.
It really made for an explosive... I mean, this is one of the only games that I play with headphones on where I listen to the actual game.
Okay, that's rare for you. That's especially once you're like in a game and you're familiar with it. That's pretty amazing.
But that's definitely part of why it hits me so hard. So yeah, I really think, I can't believe I'm saying it, especially so many years later, but I think, did Destiny 2 stick the landing? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. More than I thought possible. Yeah. Final Shape is incredible.
I'm so glad to hear that. I know you were nervous about your experience with this because you've been burned so many times. And I'm so happy that you got this experience. And it seems like everybody is pretty widely happy with it as well. Am I
agree.
Correct? Yeah. That's so amazing.
And I have a question for Destiny people down in the comments. Have you ever tried deleting one of your characters, starting from scratch, and playing through all of the available expansions again and leveling up and getting new weapons is that fun? Because I'm right on the cusp of doing that. And I want to know how it is, or if it will be fun, or if it'll just be messy at this point. So thank you for letting me know. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on our Patreon, where we have a ton of other bonus episodes and gaming episodes. You can email us, secondbreakfastpod@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening. You can check out my latest book, Lemon Tarts in Space.
Yes, another sci-fi delight. It's so great. It's a light sci-fi dark comedy. If you love anything Cam has to say, you're going to love this book. It is so funny, but also so deeply moving all at the same time, as all good comedies are. You can read it as a regular novel, or you can listen to the fully produced audio drama that Cam did himself, along with our good friend of the show, Tristan. He also co-stars in the audio drama. It's in the link in the description down below. So thank you so much for your support.
Yeah. And thank you very much for listening. I loved being able to talk about this. I loved that this was worth talking about.
Yeah, I'm so happy it was too. Yeah, I'm always happy to hear when you have a great gaming experience, and this one seems like it was pretty up there.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you here on, soon with another brand new episode.